Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, buddy. Welcome to another film episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's BeetleJuice with me tonight?
I'm Levi, and I myself am apparently both strange and unusual and a space cadet tonight.
I'm Tiffany Albertin, and that's all I got. That's all I ever do.
And I'm Bill Tucker, and Levi stole my quote, so I am not saying anything. That's it. You'll get one from me. Thanks,
Don't trust
Levi.
the living.
There you go. That's good.
So we are here to talk about, as I'm sure you already have seen the title, and I want to thank Patreon because voting for this to make me watch this movie.
Are you really thankful? Are you really?
I am, because I have actually never seen BeetleJuice before. I have been meaning to. It's been brought up in the show multiple times with different guests, and so fine. So we're here to talk about BeetleJuice that came out in 1988, the year after I was born.
Okay, shut up.
Wow.
Shut up. He likes to point out that we have a 5-year difference, and I'm 5 years older than him.
Am I the oldest person here? Yes, I think I am.
Yes.
I am. Cool.
By not much, I don't think. Bill's not going to tell us.
No,
Well, my
this podcast tells us a gamer looks at 40.
My podcast is entitled "A Gamer Looks at 40," a charming romp through the history of games as told to the people and personalities who live through it. It's an oral history of games. It's a good time. I'm kind of getting sick of plugging my own show at this point. I'm like sick of hearing my own voice on it. But yeah, I'm 41 now.
I will be 40 the 22nd.
All right, there you go.
So soon.
I am the baby of this group. I'm going to be 27 this March.
You are the baby.
Whenever something happens on this show that I'm like, I'm just going to be like, don't say that. It's bad for the baby. Somebody's going to be like, I'm the baby.
Shh, the baby's sleeping.
So I have never seen this movie. I've always skipped it. I have realized I don't care for Tim Burton movies. That's a fact now. I've realized.
Not a Michael Keaton fan or what?
Not either.
Gina Davis.
Who's Gina Davis?
The wife.
Oh. No, she was his wife in here.
I
know who was.
Gina Davis as an actress, by the way. I love her.
So, Bill, you had said it's been like 15 years since you've seen this movie?
Well, I don't know now because here's a little background.
That's close for me, too.
What's that?
I feel like that's close for me, too.
Yeah, I sat down and watched this movie, and I'm thinking I don't need to take notes. I didn't take notes. I took not a single note. I'm just going to watch this movie. I've seen it before.
You got Mike's notes. It's okay.
Perfect. Exactly. They're in perfect Sanskrit. They're great. And I'm watching it. I'm like, I turned to my wife. I'm like, I don't remember any of this. Then some of the awful stuff happens. And I'm like, I really don't remember this. So I think I might have seen it, or I may have like seen it through osmosis and like VH1 clips, top 10 Tim Burton movies and things like that. Because this movie's in the culture. Like this is ingrained into the brain stems of most people. So I assume I saw it 15 years ago or so. I certainly didn't remember a lot of it. So I almost feel like this was a brand new viewing, and I'm a different person now than I was 15 years ago. So it might as well be a new viewing for me.
And it's a different time. So
yeah, and a different time. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. What about you, Levi?
Well, let's see. 15 years ago, how old is Levi?
This is a fun topic with some of the content of this film. I originally saw this film when I was 8.
Oh,
my parents saw nothing wrong with it. And I distinctly remember one scene in particular being like, why is he being like that? That's kind of weird. And then now as an adult looking back and be like,
I watched it as a child. Oh my God.
And then I saw it again about a year ago. And then I watched it literally just a couple of hours ago to really brush up on it before this podcast.
It's the best way to do it.
And, you mentioned how they found it fine. Like your parents said, this is great. No problem, 8-year-old. No, but everybody else thinks this is fine, too. Just so you know, like nobody comments on this. I was very annoyed. I walked away from this movie very annoyed. Annoyed that I want to sit down and watch a fun BeetleJuice movie with creepy Tim Burton stuff and marvel at all the cool visual stuff it does. And then I had to have a conversation with my wife, like, are we really okay with like us reading Lovecraft, even though he was a published racist? Because like having those comparative talks, like Yeah, I love Lolita. It's like a fantastically written novel, but it's also about a pedophile. So are we okay with that in society?
I mean,
I had these conversations thanks to BeetleJuice. I didn't want to have this last night.
this movie's also about a pedophile. So.
Well, I mean, I didn't want to have this conversation. I just want to sit down and watch people being kicked out of a ghost house. I did not want this.
We know.
Quick note to anyone who's listening, if you want all the fun of Beetlejuice, but you want the nasty stuff in the film actually addressed and handled properly, check out the Beetlejuice stage show musical adaptation. They did it, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I
Where
really
can
need to
I
check
find
this out.
this?
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
YouTube, sweet.
Levi.
We're watching that next.
You can watch it. I'll edit. Levi, how did you find it again? Do you want to? We can put it out here. It's on YouTube, so I don't care. What's it?
If you want to watch somebody crappily streaming it from the crowd, type in Beetlejuice slime tutorial on YouTube, and there will be someone who has put it up, and you can see all the visuals. It might not be super, super great, but the way that they approached the darker content and also used some of the characters to help make an anti-suicide message was really great with the stage show musical.
Yeah, because there was a thing in this movie that also bothered me with that too. So we'll get
Yeah.
there. There were a lot of.
Well, you should have read the original script.
I'm good. I mean, no one should be surprised, but
Oh God, the original.
don't
script.
like Tim Burton films. I'm finding out real fast. I'm just like this. I actually did not know Alec Baldwin was in this movie until we started watching. And
Well, I didn't recognize him until I read something and was like, oh shit, that's right, that was Alec Baldwin.
he don't look like Alec Baldwin.
Young,
Super
and
young. It was one of his first movies, I think. He was just kind of starting to break out.
Poor guy.
He didn't know what he got into.
So also, I want to know what idiot thought, you know what, a movie about this should be a TV cartoon for kids.
We watched an episode of that. It was.
I watched a lot of Beetlejuice the cartoon as a kid. I did not. I meant to bone up on it before this episode, and I did not. I don't know if it holds up or
I
not.
watched one episode because it came with our DVD.
Oh, okay.
I could pass.
Yeah, this is also not streaming anywhere, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
Well, not for free, or included with your subscription. So
No,
that's.
no, I had to pay a whopping $4 for this 2 nights ago.
I paid $10 for the DVD. So
Did you actually look for it?
in there,
Yeah.
no.
Look, I bet you $5 we now have 2 copies because he decided not to look for it.
That's fine.
And,
All right, so this movie, I like the way it starts off, Ashley, where you just, for some reason, I found this interesting, where you see all the houses, and it's just kind of showing the credits and going through, and for some reason that amused me. I don't know why, but it did. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
The miniatures.
Yeah, I really like the model house that he has, and when you just, the first way you see the models is with a spider climbing on it or something. I really like this model town that he built, especially as the movie progresses. You find out that he just went to the hardware store, bought stuff, and just built this entire thing. It wasn't like he went to a model store and bought stuff. I really like that.
It really set.
also,
Oh, go ahead, Levi. Sorry.
sorry. It's also implied that that hardware store was actually theirs.
Oh, you mean when he goes in and like steals from them? Huh.
Because it's the Maitland hardware store. That's their last name.
Oh, I missed that. I assumed he just went in there, got what he needed, and just kind of paid for it, himself, knowing again, small town in wherever they happen. I think Connecticut, I think they said takes place in. They everyone knows everyone. So he just throws some money in their register. He's going to be honest. I didn't see it that way. Huh. I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it that way either. I just thought, like Bill was saying, small town, just they know the owner.
I missed what you said. I had to let the dog out. Please repeat it. It seems intriguing.
The hardware store says Maitland's hardware store. They owned it.
See, I picked up on that, and I didn't even see the sign.
I got nothing done.
Oh. I didn't even see the sign, and I was like, oh, he's going to take from himself. That works out well.
And it was just like, and right before this is when you have them give each other presents. I put in here in my notes. I don't even remember what it was. Like, this is like their anniversary or something?
It's off to do the house.
Oh, that's what it was.
It was to celebrate their vacation, if I'm correct.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they're on vacation for a staycation, which are nice.
Yep. They're going on a staycation. Yeah. And it really does a nice job of cementing them as a couple, and they're really fun. They're kind of goofy, kind of dorky, but very endearing and charming. And all of this stuff is really good, just setting up, these people you really like. I think at the very outset, I will take this moment to say all the acting in this movie is exceptional. All these actors are doing really good work. Even Michael Keaton, as being over the top and gross as he is, we'll spend a lot of time on that.
Who's only in this movie for 18 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's got. Does he have? I was gonna say he's like 15 minutes of screen time in the BeetleJuice movie. Yeah, but anyway, so these guys, it's a really nice setup. It's laid back. It's comfortable, and yeah, I think all of the setup is really good.
Am I supposed to add something?
If you like.
Oh. I think another thing that is worth commenting on that I don't think enough people talk about is, especially for the time that this movie came out, not to hate on cis people, but we don't really see a lot of cisgendered couples portrayed in marriages as being happy. We don't really see them portrayed as loving each other and enjoying each other's company and working well together, which we actually got to see with Barbara and Adam. Their relationship wasn't a punchline.
You know, I just found out his name was Adam now. I never knew it was his name.
Several times. She screams it, actually.
I wasn't listening.
But I think that's a really interesting point. Yeah, it's actually a really interesting point.
I don't know where he was when we were watching the movie.
Sorry, keep going.
No, I think that's a really interesting point. I didn't think of it because I'm just trying to think back to some media that I've been recently watching. That always seems that kind of relationship always does seem to be a source of tension, right? Because it's an easy place for tension to live in story writing. But you're right. I love these characters just having a wonderful life together. You know, they don't have kids. They don't feel pressured to have them, which is another kind of theme that happens a lot in those kind of relationships. They're very happy. They have the nosy neighbor. Hey, do you want to sell your house?
Yeah,
what?
Isn't she related to her somehow?
That's what she says.
Yeah.
I don't know. I took her as just a realtor who wanted to make a lot of money.
Because what'd she say, $200 and something thousand back in the 80s? Woo, that's
a lot of cash.
250.
That's a good chunk of change.
Yeah. She has that slight dig in there. She's like, well, you know, someone with a family be more, you know, this is really more suited with someone with a family. It's kind of a lot of house for you. Like, ugh. They're happy. Shut up. He's building models in the attic. He's been doing really cool stuff. And she really doesn't go anywhere. She doesn't really go anywhere in this story, though.
That's gross and rude. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess the other part to make them so really happy is the more to be like, because of what's about to happen, which I wasn't expecting at all.
Even though I told you it happened?
You told me that they built that bridge because they needed a bridge for their scene. I didn't realize that.
I thought I told you that. You know, never mind. Go ahead.
No, I did not know they were going to go into the water and just die.
I mean, at least the dog didn't die.
This is very true.
At least
I've said it. Yeah, I've said it before.
Like, screw you. I'm going this way.
I've said it before. You can't kill kids and you can't kill dogs. And if you're going to choose between the two, kill a kid. Like, it's very hard to kill dogs in any media because they're good boys and girls. Like, they're completely innocent of all things. So I don't know.
Our dog, are we?
May I just say that in the original script, this dog had a name and belonged to their neighbor. So may I just say that this is a PSA? Please keep leashes on your pets.
Right?
Either keep leashes on your pets and keep them indoors, or else you're going to create the next Maitland situation.
What I didn't understand is like they just the fact, like, you know, when they crash their car and they drown. I mean, it's just like you think, well, the windows are open. They could have got out of the car, but
my wife said the exact same thing. She's like, "Hey, they could have gotten out of there."
But I was like, that river, whatever they're in, didn't look that deep. But you know,
and it could have also been as horrifying as it is. The glass could have shattered from the impact of the
the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or they could have just passed.
As grim as that is.
Well, it's not quite as grim as the original story, the script beat, where someone's arm is getting crushed and you see them helplessly screaming as the water fills their lungs. I mean,
I told him to read the article. He wouldn't.
Did Tim Burton write this?
No, this is not a Tim Burton script.
Okay.
He just directed it.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. He writes.
But so did he want the original version? And someone else was like, no, this isn't going to work, or what happened?
I don't know. I didn't look too much into it because just for context for those listening, the original script to this movie was way darker and grosser in nearly every respect. Yeah, so they had to tone back a lot. I don't know who forced the issue, if it was like a studio executive or if that was a creative decision. Yeah, I think another screenwriter came in and kind of like chopped out a lot of the really grody stuff. By the way, y'all, this is a PG movie.
Yeah, oh my God.
I was trying to figure that out.
There's a big old F-bomb too, and I didn't think you could do that in PG movies. I know you can in PG-13.
Swear in here? I mean, okay, granted they do a lot, in here, but I thought they swore.
They do. He just said there's an F-bomb. But also, like, I mean, I don't want to get there yet, 'cause we'll get there. But, I mean, there's stuff in here that is not PG. But again, maybe the 80s was different.
Also, fun little trivia fact, this is the only Tim Burton movie to ever drop the F-bomb.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. Okay, I can see that. It makes sense based on the body of his work. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that is interesting.
And then
I mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And then after this, it jumps to showing them back in the house, and they don't remember how they got there, but their clothes are all wet, and they're like, "Oh, we." And then I think the fireplace just turns on, or I remember a fireplace. I remember her making a comment like, "Oh, that fireplace wasn't on when we left."
And her fingernails light on fire. And that's not odd at all.
Yeah, depends on what you put them in, I guess. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just. I also didn't understand like because it's very early on. He steps outside. Alec Baldwin does, and all of a sudden he's in a desert with giant sandworms. Like I didn't understand this at all. Like
I don't think it's meant to be understood. I think it's just
they have boundaries.
right. It's showing exactly. They're showing you have boundaries here in this world. They can't leave the house, or else evil sandworms will get you.
And there's a time difference because she makes a comment. You were gone for hours, and he's literally there like 30 seconds.
Yep.
I think also it was done mostly just for a story thing, because if they had been able to leave the house, they would have bailed ship as soon as stuff started happening, and then there would have been no plot for the movie.
Right.
okay,
setting up some rules of the movie to kind of make sure we have a movie. Yeah, totally. No, you're right, for sure. But it's cool, and visually, this is our first kind of glimpse into some of this Tim Burton visual splendor. I think no matter how you feel about Tim Burton, you have to at least acknowledge artistically as a director and visually he is unique in every respect. There is no other Tim Burton out there that can do what he does, including Tim Burton, because now Tim Burton's the parody of Tim Burton because he's just making Tim Burton movies, Tim Burton. So he's become a parody of himself, but his older work, his original work is, I just love his style, love his aesthetic. And we'll talk a lot about that as it goes forward. Pee-wee's Big Adventure is a triumph of it's just triumph.
Mike shook his head no. I think we should.
Let's go. I think we can we all, I don't know, Levi, maybe you can chime in on this. Can we all recognize that Ed Wood is his best movie by a pretty fair margin? Because it is glorious, and I definitely recommend anyone listening to watch it. So good.
I'm conflicted about Tim Burton movies now.
Okay.
For reasons of my own. I'm starting to just go to different film creators. I think my favorite one would have to be The Corpse Bride, though.
I haven't seen it. I hear it's good.
I don't think I've seen it all the way through.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Nightmare.
You're not gonna like The Corpse Bride, Mike.
I'm realizing
before Christmas.
I don't like any movie he has done. I'm realizing that really
What
fast.
about Batman? I'm sure you've liked Batman.
But Michael Keaton was definitely not my favorite Batman.
The only Batmans I like involve Christian Bale.
Okay, well
Where's Rachel?
I don't like Batman 89, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a while.
I mean, the villains were great. They're great.
We'll talk about that some more time. I need to cover that. But also, this is the first time you see the book, which is what's it called?
Handbook for Recently Deceased?
Yes.
Right.
Which I never knew until very recent. I mean, I saw it somewhere at a Hot Topic.
You see it at Hot Topic almost every time. They have purses, they have journals, they have stuff you can carry in your hands that makes it look like you're carrying the book.
I was like, what the hell is this a reference to?
I'm pretty sure I told you.
You did. Because I had no idea what it was.
Okay. No, I mean, like, when you...
You did.
Okay.
So now I finally understand more of the reference. Like, okay, I get it. I mean, but the part I didn't understand is how other people could see the book. Because it only appears after they're dead. You think it'd be something that only they could see, not people in the living who could find the book and pick it up and take it. I found that weird.
It was probably just done so the story could story, honestly.
Okay.
There's a lot of... Yeah, there's a lot of story in this movie. Convenient type of things that just help move things along, which again is fine. Yeah, depending on context.
I know.
You have
you have a very small scene of some guy sitting at a couch watching TV and be like, oh, I need to find a job. And it's just a weird scene to me too. It's really brief, just to kind of introduce you to Beetlejuice without you knowing it's Beetlejuice. Other than I knew what the plot, I know this movie at least somewhat. I'm like, okay. And then he talks about the sandworms and something. It's very short, but I just remember it being odd. I'm like, okay.
Very short time he's in this movie.
Yes, that too.
He's only in this movie like 17 minutes or something.
It's very, very little. I was surprised by that. I'm glad you actually have the actual number because
I think it's like 17 to 18 minutes.
That's crazy.
I'm okay with that because I don't need him in this movie. But
He's not in there till like after the first half hour.
I was trying to see when he first got in, but I was watching DVD, so I couldn't just hit the button and see how far I'm into the movie.
30 minutes in.
That was weird to me. I mean, the title, the cover of the movie is the character, and he's not even in the movie really. That's just strange. Maybe you should have called the Phantom Beetlejuice. Huh, nothing. Okay. And
I don't get it.
And so yeah. And then you see a sold sign, which I thought was kind of I found this funny when the new family moves in, and you get to see. Well, all I could think of was Principal Rooney. That's all through in my brain when I saw that actor show up.
Howard the Duck.
Screw
where
that
I
movie.
know him from.
I only know him from I've seen it, but I just kept thinking of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But everything with the new family, I don't like these characters at all. I don't like how they come into the house and they want to start changing everything, and they make everything like terribly ugly, and they have way too much money. It bothered me for some reason. It just like, you have all this money, you can actually just put random things on the side of this giant house you just bought for $250,088. I don't know, it bothered me.
May
Well,
I say
Go for it.
that having a mother as a fashion merchandiser, it's very, very close to life. The one point where she's just like, if you do not let me do what I want to with this house, I will go nuts and I'll take you with me. I was like, yeah, that's my mother.
All right.
So that is like my favorite line.
I also, you're not supposed to like these people. Well, you're not supposed to like the mom. You're not supposed to like the dad. The Catherine O'Hara. I just adore her. I am
love Catherine O'Hara.
everything. She's just phenomenal, and so she plays that role so perfectly. And it's a good. You have Catherine O'Hara, who is trying desperately. She just wants to she doesn't want to be here. First of all, she doesn't want to be here, but she has her assistant with her just to kind of completely demo the place and make it her own. The dad just wants to relax. The dad just wants to relax.
Yeah.
And then the wonderful Winona Ryder shows up as Lydia, and she is so fun and cool and
She's
awesome.
perfect.
A host of women, or I guess they're at that age, it's girls, I guess, but a host of ladies audition for that role, and I can't imagine any of them.
Thinking of Jennifer Connelly and Sarah Jessica Parker.
I can't imagine. She is perfect
But
for
then
that
he
role.
saw her in Lucas, and that was his Lydia.
Gotcha. I've never seen Lucas. I don't know it, but it's so great.
I think I did a long time ago. It's a really good movie.
And for no reason, we're just going to put out that the character is 15 in this movie.
15.
For no reason, I'm going to say that right now.
Yeah,
No
no reason. Absolutely
No,
not
that's
foreshadowing.
Okay.
No. And
We're not- yeah.
I did laugh
She's
at,
a moody teenager.
yeah, I mean, that was fine. I did laugh at the sculpture joke when there's something about one of the movers is moving a sculpture. And she's like, that's a sculpture. And he just like drops it on the table, doesn't even care. And shit.
Doesn't
I did
care.
laugh at that.
Just decided up.
The face that the mover gave her when she was just like, and it's not my sculpture, like I bought it, it's my sculpture, like I made it. The look that he gave her, like, if you weren't paying me as much
Lady,
as
I
you
don't
were,
care.
I'd slap you right now.
Like, lady,
And I also thought it was like, you have a scene where one of the guys that's working with him, Otho, the first scene you see him is climbing through the window because going through a door is bad luck, I think.
Is
Yeah.
that what he did it?
Something like that.
I didn't catch that. I just thought it was
How would you
slapsticky,
get that from?
I could have swore he said something about his bad luck to
Yeah.
go through a door. There's a reason he goes through the window.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did say it was bad luck. He climbs through the leg and he's tearing everything down, like the
Grabs the
blinds and everything. Like,
curtains, the
why didn't you go through the
blinds.
door? He's like, it's bad luck.
That's the character I dislike the most, I think.
Yeah, he's not great. Better than Beetlejuice, but hey.
And then at the end, he just runs.
And changes clothes, too. But we'll talk about that.
Okay, sorry.
And then you also, this is where you first see Alec Baldwin's character with a couple, and they're in a closet, and they're trying to scare the new people out of their house, and he rips off, they pull off their faces or something. Somebody does. I can't remember which, but I was just kind of like, what the fuck am I watching? I don't know, it creeped me out.
They're trying to scare them.
It scared me.
What?
It didn't scare me, but it irritated me. I'm like, why am I watching this?
And this was a weird part, and I was kind of wondering what was going on because the people can't see them, but
Yeah.
can they see them when they're trying to be scared? Like I did, and they didn't really react either. They kind of just like push them aside. So was the husband and the wife, were they under the impression that if they tried to scare them, they would see them?
I think so, yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, so they're like they're trying in vain to scare them, but of course
They
nothing's
did not
working
read
because
the
they can't see them.
handbook.
Because they didn't read the handbook. Okay, cool. I'm just getting that straight in my brain as we were talking. So, okay, thank you.
Which,
I think the handbook says people most people won't see you. Not most people can't see you. Most people won't see you.
Right.
I mean, the other thing I got to get is like, if all of a sudden I died and there's a book sitting there, what else do I have time to do other than I'll read the book? If I don't need to sleep, I don't need to eat, why not just read?
Make it a video game for Mike and he'll be happy.
I think another thing that should also be brought up that I really appreciate that they did with this movie is that I feel that Adam and Barbara had a very realistic approach to how someone would feel in this type of situation.
Oh yeah.
Like there's no horrible pain. There's just okay, we're dead, we're stuck. What do we do with this?
Now what do we do?
And you get to see them just kind of continue on and try to figure out what they're doing. And I just thought that was a really neat, refreshing approach.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
It is. I would agree with that. I mean, it's nice to see that, like, I didn't realize this till later on, but the two best characters are the couple that are dead. Everyone else is terrible, except for Lydia.
Lydia's not terrible.
No, everyone else.
Lydia rules.
Everyone else.
Yeah. And you're right. It is very refreshing to have them just try to figure it out. They don't really have that moment of panic or like, freak out moment. They just kind of go, all right, let's just go with it and let's try to figure it out. But they could have read the manual. I mean, let's be honest. Like Mike's got a point here. But
well, plus, I mean, if I was dead and all of a sudden there was a book, I would just start reading the book to try to figure out what the hell just happened to me.
Yeah, but that doesn't make for a fun movie. We need to learn as the audience these things through the action and through scenes and plot. Yeah, so I mean, it's fine.
Listen, I have ADHD, so if I died and then a book appeared, whether I read that book or not depended on if my ADHD followed me into the afterlife. Otherwise, I'm not concentrating on shit.
Oh no! If all of a sudden I found out I didn't have to sleep, I didn't have to work, I didn't have to eat, I would just get, I want to be a vampire in Twilight. That's what I want. So I have all the time in the world to do my own thing.
You want to sparkle?
I'd be okay with it. But and I did like the way Lydia dresses too in the beginning of this movie. I find it amusing how she's wearing all black and has like the fishnet funeral thing in front of her face too, which makes no sense. But the veil, but it's fishnet veil. I'm pretty sure funeral would just be a veil that's not fishnet.
She's constantly in mourning, and it's so good.
Her life.
Yep, really good.
I mean, I was worried at different parts of the movie they were going to have her commit suicide because
that was in the original script.
And I was like, I'm going to be irritated if you do that just because that's not, Thankfully they did not, but that's how it felt a couple times.
It needed a PG rating.
And I think this is the time you first see a sandworm. I put in my notes, I think they try to leave the house again, and you first see a stop motion sandworm. Because it was definitely stop motion.
Yes.
That was so horrible. I was like, ooh, these special effects do not live up.
Well, it's the 80s. I mean, if you want to see a movie with special effects, don't watch Blade 2. There's some great special effects in that movie. When he starts jumping around, it's like, hey, look, I'm playing a computer game from the 90s.
Really bad. Really bad.
Bill knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I also thought it was like because shortly after this, you have the truck start coming to change up the house. And it's just such a weird thing where you see them ripping apart things, adding parts to it. And there was a part where like a sculpture falls through the window and the kitchen was on the second floor.
So was it, okay, are we sure though? So the scene where he like looks out the window, gets a glass of water. Is this the kitchen? Because I swear when they walk in the door, that's the kitchen on the first floor.
Well, that was the original kitchen, and then they
moved it.
They redid the entire house.
They moved the kitchen to the second floor,
like the geniuses they are.
like the design geniuses that they are. Yeah, I just kind of chalked that up too because the house is kind of like on a hill, so maybe there's like a hill there and it kind of supports kind of New England style home. But I didn't think too much about it though.
I don't have too many hills.
If they have flooding inside the house from the pipes, they just don't want the rest of the house to be left out. Everybody needs to be included.
That's right. At least it'll be a consistent mold across the entire home. Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. And it's Connecticut, so hey, I guess that has something to do with it, maybe.
Is that where it is?
That's where it's supposed to be, yes, Connecticut.
Oh,
yeah, it's Connecticut.
I guess I never realized that.
The real life is not Connecticut. I think it's Vermont where it's filmed. But it's Connecticut. Supposed to be.
Same difference.
And then you have a very short scene where the ghosts see an ad on TV for BeetleJuice, which, as you're more realizing, he's not actually broadcasting it. He's actually like right in the house nearby in the model broadcasting it to their TV.
But what does he call himself? I can't remember.
A bioexorcist.
A bioexorcist. There you go.
He'll kill the people that are troubling you. But wouldn't you, if you killed the people that live in the house now, wouldn't they just start haunting the house with you? Right?
That's a very good question.
Because the theory of this is you die, you go back to your house, and you're stuck in your house for 125 years. So if you killed somebody in your house, they would then be stuck with the same bullshit you're in. So therefore, you just brought more people that have to live with you now.
Unless they haven't lived there long enough, and maybe they would go back to New York. I don't know. Again, this movie has very loosey-goosey rules. It doesn't. It plays fast and loose with its fiction to a certain extent. So I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
I also saw it weird how Ryder could see the dead. Like, I was wondering if maybe they were going to say something where she had, and something like, something tragic had happened to her. There was some kind of effect that's why she could see the dead, not just, well, she's all depressed and hates life, so she can see the dead. Like, I didn't.
She's also more open than her parents. Her parents are like, there's no such thing as ghosts. And that's like her entire life.
I mean, her dad was a principal at a high school in Chicago, so hey, what do you expect?
What does that have to do with ghosts?
I don't know. I just want to make that joke.
There we go.
Well, I know they explained it in the most dramatic, hilarious way for her, which is it says in the manual that humans often ignore the strange and unusual, but I myself am the strange and unusual. Listen, if that wasn't me when I was 15 years old, I don't know.
No, none of us, right? Yeah. No, we are all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, it's so, yes.
I was. I had long hair, and
awesome.
And now his son has his attitude, so that's awesome.
Cool. But anyway, that was kind of what I got with it. She's more in tune with the dark. I'll say the dark side. This is not. She's more in tune with kind of the darker aspects of life. She's in tune with kind of her own mortality, and she wants to see ghosts. Like she ain't afraid of no ghosts. So she's. I can totally buy that she. Even also as a a teenager, she's definitely has a little more innocence to her, where she can believe those things a little more than like an adult who's an adult. So yeah, I totally get that, and it's cool. It's a good catalyst for what's happening next.
I do agree with that. In general, I feel that if anyone did see ghosts, it would be kids, because kids are more open to what's happening. Whereas an adult, your brain is going to justify, well, that's not what you think it is. It's not there. You're just going to always find a way to justify it because you can't handle the reality that it's not what you think. I don't think that's what the movie was going for, but that's how I always take it.
Yeah, it's all kind of baked in a little bit. Yeah.
I did laugh at the small scene where he draws a door and he has to put a doorknob, and then he has to knock on it 3 times to get it, and then he goes into the waiting room.
Yep. That
was funny. I like this idea that when you die, you're able to go to a waiting room with caseworkers and have somebody help you because you don't know what you're doing. Like, that was actually pretty funny to me.
But they're wasting their 1 of 3 talks with their caseworker in 125 years. What are they doing?
They didn't know that. But everything with this was very funny to me in a sad way, because it wasn't that. I mean, it's a parallel to real life people that go, have gone through trouble, and I have, where you need social services, you need things to help you, and you're like, just that whole situation, you're waiting for a long time, you don't really know what's going on, they're not as helpful. I'm like, that's not that far from reality. Like,
next.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, it just kind of was, but it was also amusing to me, like, you have the hunter that's sitting there, has a shrunken head, but he has like the whole get up as a hunter would have been, like, somewhere in the Amazon or somewhere, and he runs across a tribe. Like, I found that interesting for some reason. Oh, there's a really bad scene here I want to talk about where is it the secretary, I think, right?
She's the receptionist, yeah.
Yeah, and she makes a comment where this was an accident. Accident, or what was the wording? I forget.
She did say accident.
Yeah.
From
Okay.
What happened to her?
She said my accident.
And then she shows her wrist where, she slid her wrist. And I'm just like, I didn't like the wording of that. It bugged me.
What did you want her to say?
I don't know. Just something about accident bothered me. I don't know why. I got nothing. I also didn't like the fact they just showed suicide like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, my answer would have been, I would rather just not be there. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. Just have the wisecracking receptionist, who's. I mean, I do like you were kind of saying, like, the bureaucracy of the afterlife is a very funny concept to me. That it's just as boring and tedious as our everyday lives are. I think that's a very interesting and fun conceit. And I also think this whole waiting room is fun up until that point. Because it's all Tim Burton just kind of stretching his legs and really going to town with some of his creative designs and just creating this very surreal world, which is very interesting and good.
I also don't like using suicide as a joke, kind of how it was.
That's kind of what it got to me. The comment, I believe, is she's like, if I known the afterlife would have been like this, I wouldn't have had my little accident. And she shows both her wrists. And I agree with you. I mean, that's the least of I think this movie's problems, but
No, but it's one of the early
I
issues.
agree with you, though. I agree with you. Oh, no. I think it's a sign of things to come. Levi, I don't know if you had anything on that.
I know like there's a few different things in this scene. Like one of the things is I love that when they first enter in through the doorway that the sign hanging above actually says no exit rather than exit because you're not meant to leave. And that you can see like hanging above where the receptionist is like number like 5 million something.
Yeah.
And one thing that I will say is that if you don't like how they approached this, which like I don't really care for it either. I thought it was pretty tasteless. The musical does a much better job. And they tackled how suicide was approached much more tastefully. And I think also how they approached it with being like, oh, haha, if you take your own life, you wind up having to be a civil service person in the afterlife. They imply that it's like forced on you. That felt
Pretty crappy.
That felt gross and just, ugh.
I didn't like a lot of, I mean, because before we watched this, you guys had made a comment where there was something that was like not good about this movie. So we were waiting to see when we get to that part. When we got to this, I'm like, okay, this is distasteful. I don't think this is what they were talking about. Turned out it wasn't. But, we were trying to figure out what it was. We kind of had that going into this movie.
I can't remember a lot about it.
And again, it's kind of like a sign of things to come. And this actually may start the conversation that we'll probably, hopefully have, because I think it's a conversation nobody has when they talk about this movie. It's can you just hand wave it and say, well, it was the 80s, right? It's of its time. It's like, no, I don't think so. I think we can actually look at it in a modern context because the 80s were only 30 years ago at most or whatever. I think my biggest problems with this movie is that it has a lot of things that go from either questionable or poor taste to absolutely disgusting. And nobody talks about it.
My opinion is nobody's rewatched this movie.
Well,
they just remember it being funny.
No, but this is a beloved movie. I actually went to a couple of like Discord channels I'm a member of and Slack channels for other podcasts and stuff. Annoyed, saying I watched BeetleJuice, waiting for a fun time, and I got pedophilia and sexual assault. I'm really annoyed. And every article I read about BeetleJuice talks about the visuals and the how funny Michael Keaton is. And nobody addresses this. And a lot of the answers I got was, well, it was the 80s. We understand it's not great now, but it was. I'm like, I don't think we can hand wave it. Should we? Can you? And that's why, again, I get into a conversation.
Yeah. Okay then, and it's not okay.
Right. But, then you see, people will bring up different movies that are like, well, this movie was kind of gross, and this movie did gross things, and Night of the Roxbury is completely gross. And I'm like, well, we should take those things to task now. But where does that line happen, right? And we'll talk about it more, I think. What's that?
We can talk about Reanimator if you want.
All right. Well, we had that. We had that
we already did that.
Yeah, we had the conversation Reanimator, right? Like, is context important, right? I mean, is tone important? So I don't know. We can talk about it more when we get to the main introduction of Beetlejuice and his characterization. But yeah. So
I did laugh at the
first
caseworker who keeps smoking, and then Tiff had pointed out how the smoke comes out of her neck because apparently somebody split her neck at one point.
That's great.
That was kind of amusing to me.
How long have you been waiting? 3 months? Oh, dear.
I like the idea how time works in this world where whenever they're not in the house, time just does not stop moving. It goes at an accelerated rate. I like that because it also helped justify like how much the house has changed when they go back into the house after, being at the caseworker thing.
No, absolutely. 100%.
I didn't understand this fly part. Like, there's a small scene where a fly comes into the model and then Beetlejuice comes out of the ground and eats it or something. Like, I didn't understand any point of that.
It was, so fun fact, I'm going to get into little tiny, itty bitty, tiny little bit of occult stuff here. Here we go. There are many, many stories where if a being is traveling from one world to another, in order to make themselves more solid, they have to eat something from that world. And this is why in Spirited Away, when Chihiro first goes over to the spirit world, she starts to fade, and then Haku comes to her and gives her berries so that she can become more solid again. This also happened if you look back through mythology and see the story of Lady Persephone, the goddess of spring, and Lord Hades, the god of death. To keep her in the underworld for a certain amount of time each year, he gave her pomegranate seeds. And so Beetlejuice, being a being of the dead, in order to exist more in the living world, needed to eat something. And so my guess would be that he ate that fly.
That's interesting. I like it.
That's
That is
fascinating.
interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Huh. I saw as a throwaway thing, like, oh, I guess it's kind of gross to use a fly. So no, literally, thank you. That's really interesting.
No
I
problem.
hope that's the reason. I really do, because it's really cool if it is.
It would make more sense than anything else that this movie tries to do. So, okay.
That's the one part that makes sense.
It does to me now.
Okay.
And you have a stupid scene with, where the father is on the phone with the boss in New York, I think it was. I had no idea what his job was, but also, to me, that kind of fit. Like, here's a guy who has tons of money, but we have no idea what he does because he doesn't really do anything.
I thought the wife made the money with her art. No, that was wrong.
Nobody
Oh.
bought her art. Her art was terrible.
Nobody bought it. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought she was like this. Yeah, it's terrible, but it might be wonderful to somebody else. Don't judge.
Not to the mover.
No, he
The mover wasn't a fan.
No, whatever the job was, I felt like it was also kind of which now to me felt like more of a call in the 80s, because the 80s was, a part when the country was doing way better and you had job. Like, that's how I took it. Like, here's a guy who really doesn't do anything kind of work, but makes tons of money for nothing. I don't know, but that's probably not what they were going for. That's just how I took it.
No, they actually, the boss later on mentions that, no one's made more money for me than you have. I think he's some sort of like a real estate developer, purchaser of land things. I don't know. Yeah,
Might be a contractor.
Contractor, maybe. Sure. Yeah. He's clearly he had access to something because they were built. They built that house up in 3 months and turned it into the garish monstrosity that it became. So yeah, actually, it was funny in that one of the opening scenes when they were actually putting up the walls. They're walking up with these like wavy dressers. And I went, oh my God, Jamie, those things are disgusting. Oh no. No, oh my God, I'm sorry. No offense. I see taste is personally fine. I recoiled in horror at those dressers.
I just want to do one in person and see how it functions.
I don't think it does very well, but
No,
I would like to
I
see
feel
one
like
in.
not.
I would like to see one in person. Yes, that'd be kind of cool.
And then you have a bunch of scenes where Lydia ends up seeing Alec Baldwin and the couple that's dead with the sheets on. She thinks it's her parents having sex, and she takes pictures. Like, this made me laugh a little bit.
Pictures of your parents having sex? What?
Hey,
What you just said?
that's what I just said. That's what it's like. But it was just amusing to me, like this whole scene with her. She, where they're running around the sheet. She's like, "What are you?" And then she takes a picture. She's like, "Wait, no feet." And then she pulls off the sheets, and then realizes that it's two people who are, aren't her parents.
Yeah. And actually she can actually see them, which is it's pretty cool because we already
I'd be
established people
terrified.
can't see.
I just saw two adult strangers in my house. Still be terrified.
They're pretty inoffensive. Yeah, she just kind of takes it in stride, which is pretty interesting. I think she was taking the pictures just for like blackmail. Like, go to your room. Oh yeah, you want me to like send this to your clients or something? Like that kind of thing, like a kid would do.
I'll write that letter and pop it in the envelope and put a stamp on it.
Right, that's right.
She has a Polaroid.
There's no email this time, so I don't know. And this is when you have Lydia tells her mother about ghosts. I think they don't believe her, if I remember correctly. They're just all they're concerned about is the fact that they're going to go sing a song later on and eat shrimp. I don't look like shrimp because she has guests coming over, and that's all she cares about.
Hands.
Oh, it's a strain. We're almost there. And this is where you have a whole bunch. This is where you have a whole cemetery scene where you have them go into the model town as a cemetery, and they start. I did laugh when they're digging up the model because it shows like cardboard being ripped up and the other pieces. I really got a kick out of that.
So
like,
clever.
Okay, that is awesome. And then this is when Beetlejuice finally shows up for the first time.
Yeah, just to back up a little bit, they make the decision to unearth Beetlejuice, even though the caseworker tells them specifically. Look, don't do it, because they bring him up. She's like, look, he's nothing but trouble. Don't do it. But they want these people out of their house. Like, they want these people to go. So, and they're clearly not good enough to do it themselves. They can't do it themselves. But so they figure they're going to hire a professional, and that's where we're at now.
Well, like, my whole thing is also shame on Juno, the caseworker, because she should have been more direct about how awful Beetlejuice was.
Yeah.
Like, literally just be like, hey, you don't want this guy here. He's a sexual offender. Don't have him around. And then they would have been like, oh, nope, never mind.
He's literally going to grope you multiple times in the next, 5 minutes. So
But
you may want to ignore. Yeah.
She might have been a crappy individual and didn't quite want to, because that's kind of like the feel that you get from everybody who's a caseworker down there. is that they're kind of like, oh, well, yeah, it all sucks, but it all sucks for everybody. So watch your own back.
Yeah, it's a lot of dismissive, like, you're going to try the usual things to get rid of them, kind of the dismissive, worn down by the bureaucracy sort of thing, which makes sense. But yeah, I agree. It would have been nice if she given them a little more warning. Like, hey, like, he's not just a nuisance. He's an actual serious problem.
It's not even a pervert. There's a difference between being a pervert and being a sexual assault.
It's like seeing a wasp nest and telling somebody, if you mess with that, it's going to suck. And then you're just like, oh, man, well, I mean, it could suck, but how much is it going to suck? And then you mess with it. And it sucks big time. You're like, why didn't you tell me it would suck big time?
Yeah. And then the other person says, I told you. No. Listen.
No, you didn't.
Like when Beetlejuice first shows up, and so I was, you guys had told me earlier, both of you, like, oh, there's a scene coming up. Look like he kisses the wife. I'm like, okay, maybe that's it. Nope, that wasn't it at all. And then he just keeps going. And did he grab her boobs or did he grab other parts of her?
Yeah.
He he lifted up her skirt without her consent, grabbed her several times.
Yeah. When we watched the scene, it made me think of a certain political figure at one point. It really did for some reason.
Commentary.
I do it every so often.
You're gonna
I know.
That
no, I'm not actually. Because that's just what went to my brain. I mean, that in 2022, that's what went to my brain. And I'm just like,
not wrong.
Yeah.
Not wrong.
I want to say the quote, but I don't want to say the quote, so I'm not going to.
And here's the thing with this scene. It's not so much the scene, it's the character. I think Levi and I kind of mentioned this in our virtual green room on Facebook Messenger with everyone here. The problem with Beetlejuice in this instance, this is supposed to be slapsticky, like, hey, look how silly and gross I am because I'm an awful person of the paranormal. But this is just who he is. Like, this is ingrained in the character of Beetlejuice. And that's what turns this into, well, kind of Porky's 80s excess to no. This is actually really gross and a problem. Like, this is not okay. Which, again, like I said in the open, this is this kind of stuff that made me have this conversation with my wife at 11 o'clock at night on a Thursday evening. Yeah, like, even though this is the 80s, can we look over this and can we overlook this? Do we have to address it? And should we address it? I'm not calling for this to be canceled or anything, but should we? Should we consider it? I don't know. And again, I didn't want to have this deep conversation.
I mean, this was bad, but it gets way worse.
Oh, no, it gets worse. Yeah,
because this was played for humor. I think that also bothered me. It wasn't like it was something to tell, an event or show that. I mean, partly to show this guy's a bad guy, but also it was a joke. Like, oh, he looked up his skirt. Oh, he tried to grab her out. Like, I'm like, this is not funny. Oh no! And just the way that they reacted, because the husband doesn't really do much, the wife doesn't do much. They just kind of move on from it. It was just like you could have cut this all out and been fine.
Yeah, he gropes his wife, and they still want to hire him for whatever,
which is really strange and off-brand. Yeah.
Like, oh, that's okay. Just look up my skirt. That's fine.
Levi, I don't know if you want to comment on this because this is kind of the big introduction to Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I think there's so much to be said about Beetlejuice.
I mean, yeah.
He falls into, immediately right off the bat, he falls into this character design that I think does really well with a certain demographic of people. Some of you may start to see where I'm going with this. Characters like Trevor Phillips from Grand Theft Auto 5 and Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. They're very, very popular with people who have issues and want to be able to embrace them. And it's kind of like that whole thing of you missed the point by loving the character and wanting to be like them starter pack memes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Beetlejuice ever on those, but he should be now.
Beetlejuice needs to be on them.
Yeah, I think so. So you almost people embrace him as an anti-hero, because I've heard that too. Like, he's not. Everyone realizes he's a bad character, but he's kind of like this anti-hero.
I wouldn't even say anti-hero. I would just say.
I agree. I'm
just.
Yeah, well, yes. But I think that could be some perception for a lot of people. I just don't know why I had to see this on Thursday night to understand this, and why this just isn't a known thing. Like a giant asterisk on this movie. Hey, if you don't like sexual assault and pedophilia, you may want to avoid this movie. I don't get it,
Still.
why it's not being talked about. That's what bugs me the most about it.
I mean, I read a lot of, clickbait articles on the internet, but I've never seen anything about this movie.
No, I had to like kind of dive to find stuff about it too.
Same. I actually right after this, I went looked up top 5 Tim Burton movies ranked lists, a bunch of them. I think I read 5 of them. And all 5 of these lists put BeetleJuice number 2. Number 2. And they all put Ed Wood number 1. I was like, okay, you guys aren't too insane. But they all put it number 2, and every single article didn't have at least the asterisks on it. Yes, we understand that it's really lost. This stuff is not okay, but we still love it for its visuals, its humor, and acting. And it just maddens me that this cultural tentpole, it's a big deal. It's BeetleJuice. It's not a little known film.
I think one thing that's also worth mentioning is that it's still a lot, not quite like fully older generations, but a lot of generations that would have been born around the time that BeetleJuice came out that are big fans of it. And then on top of that, older generations.
That would be me.
And some people who may not be quite ready to tackle those issues because they have been raised with them as normal for so long. Not that that's an excuse.
Right.
It's not an excuse.
Of course.
But
It's a look on people.
There's a lot of newer fans who I know who are starting to tackle these issues and are starting to want to talk about them. But then a lot of the older fans are like, oh, you just don't know what you're and then they're silenced. That's a lot of the issues that I've been seeing personally.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I just hope, because again, this is just one of those beloved films that people beloved, and this is just it's not even a footnote, and it's very strange and odd to me that it's not. So it's very unfortunate, and this, unfortunately, again, this cements his character as this really lecherous, gross con man, which what he is. I don't mind a paranormal con man, that's fine, but you definitely, none of this is necessary, and of course, we'll move on from here, of course. I don't want to belabor the points. Yeah. Ick, yuck, and ick.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot. I was like, what the And it also really came to my mind is how the hell did this get an animated TV show?
Yeah, he said that several times.
I know, but I don't understand. Who saw this went, you know what? What this guy needs? He needs a TV animated cartoon. Yeah, for kids.
Where he and Lydia are best friends.
Yeah, best friends, and go on these adventures in the afterlife and do all sorts of fun stuff. I remember loving the cartoon. I think they probably just saw, how much money it brought in, and then they said, "Ooh, let's see how much more money it can bring in." I don't know. I remember liking it as a kid. I did not watch anything to catch up on it. Who knows if it's bad or not? But I don't know. I liked it as a kid.
Then you have probably what I think is probably considered one of the best scenes of this movie. At least it was funny. So they summon BeetleJuice now. He's in the world, and the family is having dinner. And all of a sudden, no, this isn't BeetleJuice. This is the Baldwin, the couple, and they possess them. And all of a sudden, they start singing the Deo song. That to me was also so. This song, everything I looked up when I was Googling, it kept saying this song was from the movie. This song is something I feel like I've heard before. That wasn't included with this movie. Because I also know it came out with a Jamaican song or something, or Jamaican I don't know. There's more to it. I felt. I don't know. I just. It was just, they keep singing this song, and I'm like, this song means something that I'm not picking up on, why they chose this song.
I don't think there was really any meaning behind it. I just think it's a fun song. It's such a contrast to the sterile, gray slate, angular, dining room that they're in, eating a disgusting looking shrimp cocktail. How grody is that shrimp cocktail? Just having this boring, banal conversation, sterile and just, ugh. And then all of a sudden, they start dancing. And it's just a great contrast. And I think it's a fantastic scene. It's well executed, very funny. And then the bit at the very end when the shrimps grab them and pull them to the plate shocked me. I got a good jump out of that. I had no idea that was coming. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. Really, really clever and well done.
Anything to add, Levi?
I absolutely love how over the top all of the actors went in that scene. Actually, genuinely looking shocked while performing full-on dance. Do you know how hard that is? That's hard. And just everything about that scene was wonderful. And also, I know with the music taste, it's still it's still a little out there, but I know that like periodically in the film beforehand, music similar to that, I believe by the same artist, I forget his name, had been playing in the film. So I believe that's just the Maitlands like chosen style of music they enjoy the most.
Yes, as he was working on his model in the very beginning, he's listening to either that song or something very similar. I'm going to guess that song because they probably want to pay for 2 songs. They probably don't want to pay for 1. But yes, you're 100% right. That is set up in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I just, oh my goodness, I absolutely love this scene. And again, I know I keep bringing up the musical, but if you like this scene and if you really wanted to see it brought up to like a notch of 11, they do that in the musical. And it's wonderful.
I'm taking some time tomorrow for the football game to watch this because you're really selling it well, Levi.
It's,
I really
it's
like this
wonderful. I can't understate it.
Like 2 hours, I think, or an hour and a half. 2 hours and 1 minute. Well, you asked. So what I didn't understand is how all of a sudden the family now wants to meet the ghosts, and they're like, "Oh, we can make money off of this." And I'm just like, that went through my head. If I all of a sudden was possessed, started having to, sing and dance, like, okay, it's time for me to go.
You want to be possessed and dance?
No, I don't.
$50.
I know.
I mean, most of Delia's artwork looks like a confused nightmare farted a little too hard, and then
that was good.
And then her husband is he does kind of like the Mark Zuckerberg version of relaxing, where he's like, "Oh yes, I'm human. This is how humans relax."
Yeah.
So like, to be fair, you can't expect them to have a normal reaction to this kind of phenomena.
But then their dinner guests get like all turned off when they can't immediately produce the ghost.
That's
I mean,
right.
to be fair, they're obsessive capitalists.
Things must happen now, you see. There's no
Right now.
Time is literally money.
And then this is when they go up in the attic and the couple has to hide by jumping out the window and holding on to it so they don't see them, which to me, like, they didn't see you earlier.
Before.
Only Lydia could see them. Like, they didn't need to do that. And then this is when Otho sees the book, which to me, I felt weird that the book shouldn't exist in this plane of... It shouldn't exist in the living plane. I didn't like that. But again, movie had a movie, so I get it. But it bothered me for some reason. I also like the idea of there being multiple planes of reality to pit for that idea of that. And so I didn't like seeing something that was in both planes that shouldn't have been.
I agree with you, Mike. I had the same thought. I was like, wait, why can he see this? Because clearly this was existing in their plane. And I don't remember, can they interact with objects in the real world? I guess so. No,
Not at first.
Right.
But as the movie progressed, they were able to.
So maybe
Except
that's
this
like
movie
a
lacked a big
skill.
long scene of them dancing and making pottery together and stuff to show he was learning how to do the ability from a guy in a train car. So.
Fair enough.
I want that movie. Sexy Patrick Swayze right there.
God.
Yeah, that's my song too.
And this is where you first... I haven't seen Ghosts in years, but
we're gonna now.
This is where you first see the BeetleJuice snake, which I have seen hundreds of times in different things like references or art or all sorts of stuff. I had no idea that it was
See it in my new tattoo.
in this movie, and it was just like, that snake almost kills people.
Yeah, hangs him upside down. That guy's neck probably should have broke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought he was...
Garfield wasn't there to try to save him, so his neck was okay.
You let go.
No, I like that.
What a
Don't
fun
worry, his neck had plot padding.
Like Wednesday.
He had a story collar where, yeah, that's very good. Yeah, I was, well, this is actually showing too, and this is actually really cool too. Obviously, we all know this is stop motion and practical effects, but boy, oh boy, do I like stop motion and practical effects. This is
So do I.
really good. It's appropriately scary. It's, of course, has to go too far, and he has to look up someone's skirt, of course, because BeetleJuice. Yuck. Yeah, thank you. Great. Couldn't go one scene, huh?
Nope.
And nope, couldn't do that. So it is actually really, really effective and good. It also shows that BeetleJuice is out to kill people. Like, he's not here to scare you. He's here to murder you. Which, again, I don't actually mind that piece. I maybe makes me a bad person because, I don't really like the sexual assault stuff, but I'm fine with the murder. That's okay. But it's...
As a guy who's recorded over 40, 50 hours with you, I completely understand that reference for what you're saying, Bill.
Shush you.
There's nothing wrong with it because you like horror. You like people being murdered in TV and movies because it's fake and it entertains you.
Hang on a second
Different.
now. Wait, don't paint me like a sociopath here. I don't
No,
like
sociopath
murder.
like, I want to see it for real. Like, no, you just you enjoy movies because they're fiction. That's different.
I do think, and I've said it before, there can be a lot of beauty in the horrible and the arabesque, and like there can be absolutely. But I'm gonna say that I don't know what I was gonna say. I lost my train of thought. You know, you got me talking about myself. Anyway, long story short, it's pretty.
I think a good point is there's a very big jump between death, which is something very natural that can happen, and sexual assault, which should not be natural.
That's an excellent way of putting it. Thank you, Levi, for encapsulating a thought that was going to take me an hour to say. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
The editor, thank you too.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, it was just a strange scene. Like I didn't even catch that he looked up her dress to her skirt. Like I didn't catch that.
Yeah, you did.
I did?
You commented on it. You said, did he just look up his...
I didn't write it down, apparently.
No, you caught it before I did.
BeetleJuice is terrible, and that's what they were really trying to show. And then, do they say his name 3 times and it warps him back to the model town?
Yes.
Okay.
Do they? I thought they say go home.
No, so they say his name and he jumps, but when they're there, if they say home, 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 they go back to the home.
Okay.
Huh. Okay. And this is where and then they all of a sudden get sent back to the caseworker's office because the caseworker's all upset that they let BeetleJuice out, and then
I told you
that he's smoking, which again would not be in a PG movie, people smoking, but it's the 80s, so that was allowed. Now it'd be a rated RX for having smoking in a movie, I think, right?
Shame.
Close to it. Okay.
Probably be like PG-13 for tobacco use.
Oh yeah. And I don't agree with smoking. I'm just trying to make a joke, but it didn't work.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. No, you're right.
No, it came out
the autism brain.
Yeah, I know. It didn't come off right. I am very much against smoking. I think it's a terrible addiction, but I understand it. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, just the caseworker thing. You have like the dead football team that was in there, like, coach, like, I'm not your coach.
I don't think we made it through that crash.
It's very odd. It's very odd to have them. Again, I like the idea of this caseworker just having too many cases. You know, she's got way too many dead people to worry about. She has an entire football team bothering her, confused, like, wait, calling her coach? Clearly, I'm not your coach. You know, I
love the caseworker though.
She's great. Yeah, I like her a lot.
I love her. That's my favorite part.
Surrounded by a basket of himbos who have no idea. All of them, just no thought, just vibes, and they have one brain cell to share between them.
And this also bothered me a little bit. The next part, you see Lydia writing in her journal, and I think she's writing about suicide or something.
Yeah.
I was like, oh god, if they have her kill herself to join the dead, I'm going to be really pissed at this movie.
It looks like it's about to be a suicide note is what it was.
And that bothered me because I don't like anything that glorifies suicide in any way, especially with a teenager character. Like that just, I didn't like that at all. I mean, I know it's not where the movie goes, but I didn't like that it was there.
Yeah, and that was her entire motivation, was she wanted to die so she could go to the afterlife, you know, and because it all sounds really cool. And of course, the husband and wife, they say, no. You have
people.
Yeah, you have life to live here, you know, which is good. Yeah.
I think they were trying to do a teen anti-suicide message, but it just did not translate well at all, and it just wound up looking super, super tasteless.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And this is where you then see Lydia's talking to BeetleJuice in the model, and I think she's trying. Oh, yeah, this is where he does like because he can't say what his name is, so he does the charades. So he's talking during the charades, which I thought was like, well, that's not how charades work, buddy. Okay, that was just
as long as he doesn't say. Why can't he say his name? Did we figure that out?
Because he's a demon. If you say his name, you have troops.
So. Fun fact, it's another occult thing. Here we go.
Okay,
there are trickster beings, which very much is kind of what BeetleJuice was based on, that like cannot say their own name.
Okay, that makes so much sense.
And so, like, if they're supposed to be summoned by their name, or if their name has some hold over them, like you see this in the tale of Rumpelstiltskin. Yeah. The woman, to be free of Rumpelstiltskin, has to figure out what his name is, or else she has to give up her firstborn child. So that's also a running thing in mythology and in the occult, is that there are some beings who can't say their name, or they will refuse to. But with BeetleJuice, he can't.
That's interesting. That makes sense, though.
You're making this movie make sense in a couple parts, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, all the occult stuff is the interesting stuff. Like that's actually really cool and interesting. Like again, how he deals with the afterlife, and so I think that stuff is actually that extra layer of nuance and understanding it does make it a lot richer. So that's super cool.
Again, I wonder if they did that consciously or they were just like, oh, he just can't say his name just because.
My guess is partly consciously if there was somebody around somewhere that had some knowledge of just either myths or of that nature, like, hey, this is what we should do.
Well, because like if you look through the original script, the name BeetleJuice, like with the whole like spelling that it's supposed to have, and it's pronounced differently. I forget how it's actually pronounced. I don't exactly remember, but that is it's a Middle Eastern name. And he was originally supposed to have more of a Middle Eastern appearance in the original script. I'm glad that they didn't go with that, though, because that would have come off as a little bit racist. Like the only person of color being the villain.
Yeah.
And you already have rape and pedophile. I want to throw in racism in there, too. We go with the movie.
Then it would have been really extra bad.
Yes. That wouldn't surprise me.
And we all know that Tim Burton...
trinity of uh-oh.
And we all know Tim Burton movies are not known for their diversity. So
and then you have like the business presentation where the father is trying to say, oh, hey, we can do this, we can make money off this town and we'll build this here. It's like all this to try to get the boss to sign off and do it on the idea. I think doesn't he just walk out because the ghosts don't show up or something?
Yeah, they want the ghost.
Oh, no, they do show up. BeetleJuice shows up. Never mind.
Well, another one of my favorite things is that they are just immediately like, we can make money off of this town and we can change things without even, like, going to reach out to the city council. Because as somebody who's lived in a small, tiny little town, like less than, I think, 50,000 people, the city councils do not want to change. I lived in a town where a crystal stopped traffic. They do not want to change. So the idea of, we're just going to make money. Like, no. Oh, no. You poor baby.
Really putting their sacks and sacks of money before the horse, right? Kind of like, let's make all these plans. And then, their thing, I think, was they're just going to buy the town. Like, literally, the idea is, hey, let's buy everything in the town. And now we own the town. And then we'll just make this ghost town. that is literally these geniuses' plan, right? Like you said, like without like consulting the city council or realizing there's a whole government here, the police department, a fire department, like all sorts of stuff are here already. But it's by the town. That works.
I didn't like this next part where they have Othos doing like what he thinks is like a seance to summon the dead, but he's actually doing an exorcism. I didn't like it.
I don't think
it's an exorcism.
Are you sure?
Yes, that's what Wiki said.
Yeah.
Oh, Wiki. Okay, sure.
But it just didn't like that, how they take their clothes, their wedding clothes, and they summon them into their bodies, and they start showing how they should have looked. Because if you would have drowned, and they looked like they were, all puffy and wrinkly, like they drowned. But at the same time, like, how long do you think they were in the water? They crashed right in town. Like they probably would have got to them pretty quickly. But that's neither here nor there. But that's what went through my brain. It's like, well, they wouldn't be that wrinkled because they would have been pulled out of the water pretty quickly. But that doesn't matter. But that's how my brain thought. But I didn't like seeing them like that and seeing them suffering, which is like the whole catalyst of why Lydia goes upstairs, finds BeetleJuice, and then this part bothers me, which we've been tiptoeing around to this point. But BeetleJuice says, in order for her to, they do the game, like the name, like she's like, I'll help you, but first you have to agree to marry me because I'm like an illegal alien. I need to be married in order to stay here.
And she's like, sure, whatever.
And
eventually she's like, sure, whatever.
Because she's trying to save them because she can tell they're suffering. Levi, is there any occult stuff to do with this, or is this just pedophilia?
I mean, not from what I know of. I mean, there may be. I'm not fully versed in everything. I'm not going to be like, oh yes, I know. Like, I'm not a walking encyclopedia.
No, you're good.
More into it. One thing. Well, what am I? My brain stopped all at once. Everything.
As a guy who follows myths, I was wondering, like, I could see it being something from a myth or something of that, legend where it's like this creature has to have a wife, but also at the same time to me, I'm like, well, that's not really because marriage is a legal thing. It's like, I don't know. It's just one of those things.
I think because I know they go a little bit more. It may just be that they changed it for the musical, but in the musical, he literally makes it where like, oh, it's a green card thing. So it may just be playing more into the bureaucracy.
Okay.
Maybe.
I did not So I didn't realize at first that she's 15 when this is
How
happening.
old did you think she was?
I don't know. I was hoping maybe the movie would have made her 18 or
She
something.
Actually, I think she looks younger.
She does, which also bothered me.
It's the 80s. If she was 18, her parents would have kicked her out.
Yeah.
But it's just, and so then she says his name 3 times and he comes out, but it's just like, it gets worse than this. I mean, first, yes, he says, okay, you need, marry me. All right, whatever. Like, that's bad enough. But then as the movie progresses, when he comes in and he starts, he ties up the parents with the sculptures and like summons a preacher to come in, and she doesn't even say I do, and he talks for her. Like, it gets really bad where he's forcing her to marry him.
Child bride.
Yeah, like I'm just like, this is not necessary. You could have him make that comment or something. There could have been something else, but I'm like, this is just, the last scene of this movie is all them trying to stop him from marrying her.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just like, this is not okay.
I mean, they literally could have gone with anything else.
Anything. There's so many things. You're building this mythos, like you're building this world. You could have literally done anything else. But they went with
They could have
Can't
gone
say
with
it.
it with him being like, oh, I have to kill someone to become alive, so I'm gonna try and kill Lydia. That would have been better.
Yes.
And then
I don't
also,
know.
may I also say that, like, in the original script,
You can
there's
say it,
something that goes down in the original script that just, like, ugh.
Yeah.
In the
Nauseating.
original script, Lydia has a little sister, and I will warn anyone who's listening, if you have any like triggers with sexual assault, you may want to like maybe not listen for a few minutes. But BeetleJuice literally makes comments about her 9-year-old sister,
Oh.
and I was like, what? Like, he literally sees her, she walks out, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna have to use my imagination with that one. And I was like,
How did anybody think,
Oh boy.
So
even
how
in the
did-
80s?
How did that version of the script even be brought up to be thought of being made as a movie? How?
the thing is, I just read that a few hours ago because I wanted to make sure that like everything was fresh on my mind. I had never read the original script before. I knew it was darker, but so that's like fresh on my mind. That's newly engraved.
I knew she had a little sister in the original script, but I haven't like read it.
Ooh, it's bad. It's real bad.
And I'm just looking at the wiki right now, and I haven't read the actual script, but evidently this sister, Kathy, the 9-year-old, she's evidently murdered horribly, mutilated at the very end of the movie, evidently,
Oh,
because he
geez.
takes the form of a rabid squirrel. Because haha, that's funny. Yay.
What?
Yeah.
That's a horrible way to die.
I mean, I don't know. I don't understand. I'm sorry, I'm trying to formulate thoughts here, but it is really completely fucked up. I don't understand why they had to take this route. I don't know who looked at that and said, that's funny, that's fine, that's a great way out. And I don't know why nobody talks about it. It is so frustrating.
I don't get that either. I'm really
That's
honestly
the big
surprised.
thing I'm on, because again, we can have art that is not okay, but we still watch it or ingest it, right? With asterisks. Again, we all know Lovecraft was a racist, horrible racist, right? The Innismore. Yes, that's what happens when the races combine, right? He was terrified of that, right? But we're all still reading the Cthulhu mythos, right? And there's so many examples of that in media where we've decided as a culture and a society, hey, we're going to take the good with the bad. And I think those have to be personal choices sometimes. If at least you talk about it and bring it up and you reference it and say, hey, this is not okay. But in this movie, with a cartoon attached to it, like no one fucking talks about it. And it just baffles me that we're the only podcast in the world that might be talking about this.
Another
We can't be the only podcast.
I know.
Another
I know.
tiny step further, which is why I've started moving away from Tim Burton movies, is that people have started commenting about how he refuses to use people of color in his films.
Right. Yeah. As I kind of said earlier, it's well documented. He is not very diverse at all. I mean, to the point where he is super duper not diverse in his casting.
I mean, he's
even
definitely
now.
not diverse. He basically just uses
Johnny
Helena
Depp.
Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp for everything.
Johnny Depp, yeah. Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I don't know, and that's just all of the. I'm not saying obvious, but obviously everything here is completely disgusting and gross. And trying to marry a 15-year-old, that's gross. I just really wish this was we had a big asterisk on this that people were actually discussing and commenting on. This literally beloved second best movie Tim Burton's ever made movie.
I don't understand the love for this movie. I really don't get it.
I think Levi really put it well. I think a lot of it probably has to go with nostalgia glasses. And, if I saw this in 1987, I think this was released, my parents would not have let me see this in 1987. I was 7 years old, or 88, I was 8. But if I saw this when I was like 13, all that stuff would have gone over my head. And if I'd seen it as a really shitty 22-year-old, I'm sure I was shitty. I probably would have I would have sucked because I was probably 22. And I was a 40-year-old man who doesn't suck as bad as I did back then. I don't know.
I mean, you do have a small scene where the wife gets zapped to the desert, and then she rides a sandworm into the house and eats Beetlejuice, and that's how he dies again. I don't know. I found that, I'm like, okay, at least he's gone. And the next time you see him, he's sitting in the waiting room at the end of this movie.
Can someone explain to me very quickly how she got into with the sandworm? Like how that happened?
Barbara, so from what I've seen from most of the movie, Barbara's just a badass. I mean, the first time that she saw a sandworm, it tried to attack her and she punched it in the nose.
Yes, she did.
So it was, my guess is that for however long she was out there, because, you know what? Hang on. My brain is doing things. I'm so proud of it.
Hey, brain.
When Adam had gone out there that one time before, he was like, oh my God, it was like 30 seconds for me. And she was like, oh, really? You were gone for like a couple of hours. That means Barbara may have had a couple of hour throwdown out there with a sandworm and won and come back riding it.
Well, I would actually think the opposite. I think that she was able to get out there, snag a sandworm, and come back because I guess based on that, if she was gone for, it was like a minute or two, this whole scene, that would imply that she was out there for like 10 seconds. So she went out there, grabbed the first sandworm she found, punched it real hard in the nose, and then burst in like the aforementioned badass she is. So whichever way it works. But
Barbara's a badass.
Either way, she is pretty awesome. And I just didn't understand in the lore how that worked, but it made for a really cool effect and it got rid of Michael Keaton. So cool. Great. However you gotta do a movie, it's cool with me.
My thing that I absolutely love is that this implies that before Beetlejuice got to be sent back to like the nether realm and into the whole area to be seen by a caseworker, he had to be pooped out by a sandworm, and that's exactly what he deserves.
And I also will say too, it's very neat when I keep forgetting the husband's name, but is it Adam? Is that right?
Adam.
Yeah, Adam.
I don't want to say Alec Baldwin. When Adam gets poofed away by Beetlejuice, which again, evidently Beetlejuice can just do that because this movie is very loosey-goosey on its rules. The fact that when he does that, he puts him into the model and he drives a little model car to distract him enough to stop making Lydia say, wedding vows. That's a really cool idea. I really like that idea of him driving this little itty-bitty car and crashing into his foot. It's actually a very, very cute and inventive and imaginative. That was very fun.
I can agree with that. That was one of the funnier parts. And then this movie has kind of an odd... The ending was fine. You see Lydia leaving school. She comes back to the house, and then you see the house where they have compromise, where half the house is from the other couple and half the house is from the dead couple. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yep, they all live together now in harmony.
You told me yes when I noticed it.
I wasn't quite sure if the parents can actually see Adam and his Adam and his wife. I don't remember if they can now see them. I don't know if that was established. Obviously, Lydia can see them, but they're all kind of living together. She's in her, I guess, a private school uniform, which just really cements the grossness of the past of the previous 10 minutes. That really brings that home. So I don't remember if they can actually see her, but they're all kind of living in harmony in the home.
Of them, at least, you can tell they're aware of them.
Yes, they're totally aware. They believe them. Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and then I absolutely love that the mother went on to start creating sculptures of Beetlejuice. Like, oh yes, that's not going to re-traumatize your daughter at all.
And Lydia dancing in the air is so fun and good. And the random football players behind her, I don't know why they're there. But
why are they there? What happened?
whatever. My brain went, this is pure and good. I've seen like horror and misery, so I'll just take it and move on my life.
My favorite.
It's great. Oh, I love that. It's an iconic scene too. Her just dancing in midair. Why is she dancing in midair? Can she dance in midair? Is she dead now? I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
That was her reward, to dance in midair and sing because she got an A. It was.
That's the part that I'm like. So yeah, and that ends the movie.
Yay!
That brings us. I'm in the same point. I don't understand.
No more chicken scratch notes for.
Nope, no more notes. So that brings us to shelf stacker box. And Levi, why don't you go first?
Box. I would not support any other films if they included a ton of racism or wait, is Stack the one for getting rid of, or is that Box?
Box is the one to get rid of.
Okay, yeah. I wouldn't support films if they included a ton of racism or a ton of homophobia that was just out there. So why should I make it any different for sexual assault and pedophilia? Like, I'm glad to have seen this movie. I love the music. I love the cultural stuff that was spun off from this movie. And I love the special effects and how it helped forward film in its time. But that cannot be an excuse for me continuing to support it. So, Box.
Okay. What about you, Tiff?
This is hard for me because, like you said, nostalgic tinted glasses. I was, especially because it was a movie my dad and I used to watch together. So that's especially hard for me to put it in the box. So I'm just going to say the shelf just for memory's sake, but I'm not saying it's a good movie.
No, it's okay.
It is a bad movie. However, if they had a soundtrack somewhere, I would put that on the shelf because I do agree it has good music.
And what about you, Bill?
And yeah, before I really do empathize with people who love this movie for nostalgic reasons, who grew up with this and have it be formative parts of their life. Especially, I think for a lot of people, this was probably the first time they had seen visuals like this and imagination like this, because all that stuff is good. Like, again, I love the visuals. I adore the stop motion. I even like the dumb plastic masks that they're wearing when they turn their faces into horror shows. And they're great. I think they're also imaginative and clever and good. So many good performances. But like Levi say, I cannot in good conscience even put this in the stack because I just can't. So this has to go in the box for me. And it's a real bummer because there's so much stuff here to like and enjoy. And luckily, the good parts of this have kind of leached into the culture quite a bit and can be experienced elsewhere in other ways. So yeah, this has to go in the box, and it kind of bums me out. And I feel for those who really like this movie and maybe looking at this as you know, with older eyes, perhaps, or more mature eyes or experienced eyes, and being like, God damn it, why is this so shitty? Why is this so shitty? You could have been great. But
why didn't my dad tell me?
Maybe he just didn't recognize it. And that's, I can't even blame people. It's, sometimes culture's like that, right? It takes time to grow, and grow in that way, but we're just to recognize things. Anyway, not to belabor a point, but definitely in the box, and it bums me out.
I'd also like to briefly bring up that if you're willing to admit that this movie was like, you're willing to admit the bad stuff, but you still enjoy it, you're not a terrible person, as long as you're willing to admit the bad stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I feel a little better.
No, you liked it for nostalgia. You didn't like it because it had, sexism. There's a difference.
No, it's not a good movie. It has horrible parts, and I don't condone anything that happened in it. But like I said, my dad passed away almost 2 years ago, and that was a movie we used to watch, so I can't put it in the box.
No, that's different. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. You're not like, oh, I really like that scene. Like, that's a whole different case. Like, that's...
And nor are you telling people who don't like it, come on, Snowflake, relax. It's just a joke.
No,
I'm not doing that either. So
I'm like sitting here going, I'm a horrible person.
No, right? You are far from a horrible person. Aw. You don't have the thoughts like I have. You're good. So, and I'm going to go last. This is also going in the box. I did not like this movie for any reason. I didn't enjoy the questionable things. I just didn't enjoy the movie in general. But then again, I've also realized I don't like Tim Burton at all, but I'm glad I finally saw this movie because we have been talking about the movie off and on in this podcast with all the different people, like a bunch of the people that come on, back with my original co-host we had mentioned at different times. So it was good to finally watch it and cover it. I did not expect this conversation to go the way it went, though.
I told him we were going to do it eventually.
I did not expect this movie to be about pedophilia and sexual assault and about a terrible dead person. Like, I didn't expect any of that when I first started to say it. It's in the box, but I'm glad I did finally see it so I can never watch it again now that I own it. So. All right, that's all I got. All right. And the last thing I do want to say again is this was brought to you by Patreon, by people voting in a poll. So as little as $1, you can go to our Patreon. You will see a link in the show notes and go vote. Little as $1. You can vote in our monthly poll and you can decide something that we're going to cover.
What are you saying?
Things.
No, at the end. What are you trying to say? Little as $1?
Yes.
Okay, well, enunciate, please.
Oh, my headphone wasn't plugged in.
Sure.
Bill, where can people find you at?
You can find me at A Gamer Looks at 40 on Twitter and the podcast of the same name. As I said in the open, it's a kind of a nostalgic walkthrough of different games and eras as told through the stories of the people who lived them. It's kind of like a Ken Burns documentary of all these different people with thoughts and opinions and most importantly, stories. And it's a real personal show. And I hope you listen to it and enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, don't tell me. It's okay. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. A Gamer Looks at 40 on Twitter is where everything can be found. So just go there.
I can't believe the editing you do. I just can't.
Maybe you should up your game then.
No, thank you.
I am working on a Nintendo 64 episode. And you know how like in Audacity or any of those programs, you have tracks, right?
Yes.
3 tracks. You have one for your voiceover and one for this. I have 44 right now on this project.
Does your wife ever see you, like, ever?
Yeah, she does. She sits next to me at work. We share a desk. So she sees me all the time.
You are collecting them like kids collect Pokemon cards. Are you okay?
Well, I'm even in there for one of those interviews. So yeah.
You were there. Yeah, you have a really funny story that's going to be in that episode. It's fine. It's going to break up into 4 episodes. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's all fine.
Wait,
anyway.
how long are your episodes?
Hour and a half sometimes.
An hour and a half. Well, so that's the one I'm talking about now, not to belabor this point, but it's the N64 one's going to be probably 3 episodes because I have 2.5 hours worth of stuff to break up. So it'll be 3 episodes worth. I like to keep them to an hour and change. And
Yeah, he's not bringing it.
yeah, and I like to, and since I'm doing them every other week, I have 2 new side shows that are going to fill in the alternate weeks. One of them's called Tales from the Bargain Bin, which is myself and my brother. Yeah, we got, everyone got weird games as a kid from family members who were just trying to do the right thing, but they didn't get the list from Santa, so they just got you whatever they found.
That's because the list from Santa costs $50.
Exactly, and why would you spend $50 in a game when you can spend $5?
Santa
And
don't
some of
got
those
that much money, okay?
But some of those are gems, and some of those are not so much. We talk about those games.
That's
And the
a cool
second one-
concept. I like that.
Thank you. And the second one's probably not as cool, but it's we talk about walking simulators. Our own Mike Albertin was on our first one where we talk about the Stanley Parable. I like walking simulators. I think they're interesting intersections of game and arts and interactive and story. So that's the only. And Mike Albertin named it. So hey, he named the show. The Walk Never Ends.
Oh yeah, I forgot I did, by the way.
You did. You sure did, sir. So look for that
Walking
in
simulators.
March.
All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, please go check out all our other content because there's a lot of other content. We went through all the MC movies because I was insane. So me and Bill, you can hear us for hours and hours and hours talk about MCU with Mike.
We're doing garbage for kids.
Never. So definitely go check all those out. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. Want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Fury. You can follow her TikTok. You will see a link in the show note. And I can't think of anything else I need to say. We will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.